done yet? And if not, who could be next? Joining me to discuss all of this, NBC News White House correspondent Jeff Bennett, Daily Beast White House reporter Vossoughian Subasong, Lauren Zelt, Republican strategist and managing director of FP1 Strategies, and Jake McAbee, Democratic strategist and former Obama administration official. Jeff, I'm going to start with you on this one. Is there anything new, you think, in the president's tweets and comments today on Mexico? And what's the reaction from Congress so far from what you've been hearing?
Hey there, Yasmin. I think there is something new. Look, previously the president has threatened to shut down the government over the DACA issue, but now he's suggesting that prospects for a deal are done. Of course, the big consequence of that, if the White House and Congress aren't able to work together to enshrine DACA protections into law, it means the fate of the so-called dreamers remains unresolved, and they'll continue to live in limbo, or as they say, in the shadows. Of course, I think there are two things that really account for this. It's the fact that, one, the negotiations over on Capitol Hill about DACA have stalled, and the president, people close to him tell us, is trying to head Democrats off at the pass here. He's trying to pin the blame on them before Democrats are able to pin the blame on him in the 2018 midterms if, months go by and there's still no DACA deal in place, Yasmin.
So also, we're hearing Jeff say that the fate of the dreamers obviously unresolved, it seems, here with the president's new stance on this, his tweets on this Easter Sunday. We mentioned also the Fox News banner, this idea of caravans of illegal immigrants heading to the border. It's actually been all over conservative media. When John Kelly first came in, there was reporting about him limiting what stories end up in front of the president. Do you think, Vossoughian, that sort of John Kelly has lost his ability, or is this the type of story that Kelly wants President Trump to read?
Well, Chief of Staff Kelly has never been able to stop, nor has he ever tried to stop, what the president watches on his TV on his own time. And that is largely saturated by Fox News, and one of his favorite programs, if not Trump's favorite program, is Fox and Friends. And it's where he solicits a lot of his political and policy advice, not just through the TV, but he also picks up the phone and calls several of these Fox and Friends personalities and hosts for advice and counsel, including Pete Hegseth. So when you see something like the caravan banner on Fox and Friends and how it immediately triggers the president to send the kind of deal is dead tweet storm on DACA and immigration that he did this morning, you kind of see that no matter how many people in his inner circle who may be more centrist leaning than he is on the issue of immigration, no matter how many times they tell him this is a deal you should make or something like it, something as easy as talking to a Fox and Friends host or seeing a banner on the TV screen can easily push him back or get him to revert to what is his own instinct on this issue, which is to be a total hardliner, an immigration hawk.
Left alone at Mar-a-Lago with Stephen Miller and John Kelly not being on board with him when he's on that trip. Lauren, the president does seem sort of increasingly frustrated that he did not get more money for his border wall in that omnibus bill. He seems to have floated the idea recently that the military should pay for it. How big of a deal is this for him personally and also for his base?
I think it's a big deal, first and foremost, for his base. I mean, look, that was one of his key campaign promises in 2016. And I think that a lot of people who his base consists of are looking for something on this. But on the DACA issue in particular, I have to tell you, this is a missed opportunity, not only for the president. It is also a missed opportunity for both Republicans and Democrats in Congress. If you look at polling consistently, even 80% in some polls of Republicans support finding a solution for dreamers. As for this notion that anyone would come across the border from Mexico to take advantage of DACA, that's unfortunately just a misinformed tweet. All DACA recipients have passed strict background checks, and by ending the program, it means that I'm fairly certain that no one can sign up from DACA from here on out. All they're doing is renewals. So I think those tweets this morning, they were full of a couple of different topics that really shouldn't be lumped together. But one of the biggest takeaways, I believe, is that it's really a missed opportunity to act to protect the dreamers for everyone in government right now.
You heard Jake say that the president wants to head Dems off at the pass here. He wants to sort of get ahead of this narrative, blaming the Democrat before they can actually turn around and blame him for the DACA situation. Is there a concern that this could actually stick, that the president's narrative could stick, and that the Democrats could be on the losing side of this battle?
Well, I think the problem here is the president has turned down repeated opportunities to actually make a deal here. Democrats came to President Trump with a deal back in September to try to get him to extend the Dreamer program, and they've come up with a series of deals since then, and he's turned them all down, including, by the way, one in which they offered $25 billion for a border wall, and he turned that down too. So he's been unable to get out of his own way on this, and he seems interested in just kicking the can down the road and finding someone to blame. So unfortunately, it looks like any deal that gets made, Democrats are going to keep trying here. Any deal that gets made is going to happen in spite of the president, not because of him.
So it seems as if, Lauren, that the president is actually taking some more control here. This is actually from the Washington Post today. 14 months into the job, Trump is increasingly defiant and singularly directing his administration with the same rapid and brutal style he honed leading his real estate and branding empire. The president is replacing aides who have tended towards caution and consensus with figures far more likely to encourage his rash instincts and act upon them, John Bolton obviously being one of those individuals. Is Trump taking more control? Is this a good thing, Lauren, for Republicans?
Well, I think what we're seeing ultimately is that the president is running his White House in a similar fashion into the way that he ran his campaign. I mean, look, most traditional presidential campaigns don't have more than one campaign manager. Donald Trump had 3. So I think the idea that anyone was expecting a White House that didn't have a lot of turnover just wasn't reality. It's abnormal for politics, certainly. We haven't seen anything like this before. But, you know, to your point about Ambassador Bolton, Mike Pompeo, and some of those other recent staff changes, I think what the president is doing is bringing people into his administration that are more in line with his views. He had a lot of conflicts with Secretary of State Tillerson. Obviously, we saw that play out in the media. So to the extent that the people that voted for President Trump in 2016 are looking for him to deliver on the agenda that he promised, I actually think that some of the folks that he's bringing in, whether you agree with them or not, are going to be a little bit more on the same page as the president.
And Jake, here's the interesting thing in all of this, amidst all the chaos that's been happening over the last couple of weeks, including poor Stormy Daniels, the president's poll numbers are actually up. If you look at this right here, these poll numbers right here, should that worry the Democrats?
Well, look, I'm a Democrat and everything worries me. But I think the reality is polls go up and polls go down. But if you look around the country at the kind of energy you're seeing among Democrats, you're seeing special elections across the country where Democrats are pulling out wins. You saw wins in Alabama, in Virginia, in Pennsylvania. You're seeing it across the country. You got 40 Republicans who've decided not to run again for Congress, and you've got record numbers of Democrats, record numbers of women who are running. I think the Democratic Party is fired up. You got people across the country who are ready who are ready to pounce, who are ready to solve real problems for the American people.
Yeah, you also now have this controversy over David Shulkin, whether or not he was fired, whether or not he was resigned. Obviously, different messages coming from both Shulkin and the White House. Want to take a listen to what he had to say, and then I'll have one of you react.
I would not resign because I'm committed to making sure this job was seen through to the very end.
So you were fired?
I did not resign.
Okay.
Aswan, what is the point here of the White House saying that he resigned when, in fact, he says that he was fired? Why put this out there when they knew that he was going to go on a major media blitz there and correct them or say that, no, he actually was fired and not resigned?
Well, I think the White House is trying to tamp down